Dear learners, welcome to Online Gyan Sarovar. Today we are going to study a very simple poem, A Tiger in the Zoo, written by Leslie Norris. Now, this poet, Leslie Norris, was a Welsh poet. Welsh poet, and he won many prizes for his short stories. Now, present poem, actually, this poem is a contrast, a tiger in the zoo with the tiger in its natural habitat, that is forest. So this poem is a contrast, or we can say a comparison between the dwelling place of a tiger, forest, and when we keep a tiger in the zoo. So this poem is a comparison between a forest and a zoo in terms of life of a tiger. So a tiger may be safe in zoo, but he is not happy as to lose his freedom which he could enjoy in a forest. So here we can say that poet is feeling pity for the tiger. He is feeling pity for the caged tiger which has been kept in the zoo or kept in the cage for a longer period of time. Now here the poet has portrayed, we can say the poet has portrayed mental state of a tiger. So in this poem we are going to see how the poet is feeling concerned over the imprisonment of a animal like tiger being kept by human beings in the cage or in the zoo. And he also advocates, he is also advocating, he also advocates granting freedom to animals, as we all know that as a human being we all love freedom. So in the same way we can also say that animals also love their freedom. So in simple we can say that this poem is a plea, it is a plea or a request to let animals get free from, they get their freedom or they get free from their captivation so that they can wander in their natural habitat called forest. Now when we have a look at this poem, we can say that this poem has been written in 20 lines. This poem is written in 20 lines. Stanza is of 4 lines, and these 4 lines they have a regular rhyme scheme A, B, C, B. So this is the rhyme scheme of this poem. Rhyme scheme of this poem, regular rhyme scheme. This poem has got a regular rhyme scheme throughout these 5 stanzas. There are 5 stanzas in this poem, and each stanza is of 4 lines, and every stanza has a regular rhyme scheme of A, B, C, B. This we have discussed earlier, how we are going to find out the rhyme scheme of a poem in earlier topics or in earlier poems. Now let us go through this poem. So this first stanza, when we go through this first stanza, so this stanza describes the status, or we can say life of tiger in zoo. So this stanza, first of all, it describes the status or condition of tiger in a zoo. So let us go through this poem. He stalks in his vivid stripes. Now here at the beginning, no, the poet is telling, or we can say the poet is introducing tiger in the form of a human being by calling it as a he. So here he has been personified, because we all know that generally we use he, the word he, with human being, but here the poet is using he instead of it. So that is why here he, or we can say tiger, is personified. So here we can say that in this poem there is a use of personification by the poet. And we can also see one more thing, that this poem is full of imagery. This poem is full of imagery, or we can say that is we come to know a lot of pictures in our mind, pictures of tiger in our mind. So we can say this poem is full of pictures or full of imagery which comes in our mind as we are going through this poem. So let us go through. He stalks. Stalks means this tiger is walking. Tiger is walking or moving. Tiger is walking, moving very quietly, or we can say casually also, because he doesn't have any interest in the surrounding areas of zoo. So he walks in his vivid stripes. Vivid stripes. So here vivid is deep bright. Deep bright spots or stripes which are there on the body of the tiger. So he is walking in his deep bright stripes on his body. The few steps of his gaze. Now see, notice the word the few. Few is giving us indication about the limited, or we come to know, yes, he has been kept under some cage. He is not free. He is not free. Also the few is telling us that these things tell us about the limited source of tiger in his cage. On pads of velvet. On pads of velvet. Now here pads are the paws. Pads are the paws of the tiger. Now here velvet refers for the softness. So here we can say that the pads of velvet. Pads of velvet. So here we can say a kind of metaphor is used. Kind of metaphor. As the poet has called that his paws are very soft. Are very soft as velvet. So without comparing it, he is telling that yes, pads are velvets, they are very soft. Velvet quiet in his quiet rays. Now here one more thing we can come to know about that. This poet has put two things which are opposite in nature. Quiet, calmness. Quiet is the calmness. On the other hand, he has put rage. Rage means anger. So two things are which are opposite in nature. So when we put two things opposite in nature, so there is a figure of speech called oxymoron. Oxymoron. Now let us move on to second slide, or we can say second stanza. Second stanza. So in second stanza we will see that he should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass near the water hole where plump deer pass. So now we have moved on from zoo, we have come to jungle, or we can say we have come to forest, or we can say now the poet has focused his imagination on the natural habitat of tiger, that is forest, that is jungle. Now he should be lurking in shadow. He should be lurking in shadow. So here again, lurking. Lurking means here he is hiding. He is hiding in tall grass in order to attack or pounce on its prey, in order to pounce upon its prey. Lurking in shadow. Shadow means here refers for some hiding place, maybe tall grass. Sliding through the long grass. So here he is hiding himself in tall grass and he is sliding. Sliding means here moving very slowly. Moving slowly through the grass near the water hole, near the water pool. Because we know that in forest area or in jungles, every creature or every animal, whenever he feels thirsty, he will come to the water source or water pool. So here this tiger is sitting there or hiding itself in order to pounce or in order to attack on the animal which comes there for drinking water. Where plump deer pass. Plump deer pass. Now here plump refers for fat or we can say healthy. Now tiger is hiding in the long or tall grass, and whenever a very fat or healthy deer passes, or which is we can say the deer which is full of flesh. So there this tiger is ready to pounce or attack on this deer whenever it passes through that area. So I hope this second para is clear. It describes about the condition or status of tiger in a jungle or in a forest or in its natural habitat. So here we can say he has lot of freedom. He has lot of freedom. This we can say. Now let us come to third stanza. Now here third stanza also describes the status of tiger in the jungle or in the forest area. Poet is continuing this description of tiger in a jungle. So let us move on this. He should be snarling around houses. He should be snarling around the houses. Now here the poet is imagining that what the tiger would be doing in case he is unable to find any prey in his natural habitat. He is unable to find any prey in its natural habitat. So tiger would be snarling. Snarling means here growling. Tiger would be growling. So it would be growling at the edge of the jungle near some village. He should be snarling around the houses which are situated near the edge of the jungle, edge of the forest. Now this also tells us one more thing, that how we as a human beings are encroaching natural habitats of these animals. And when we are encroaching the natural habitats of these animals, so they are forced to come out of these natural habitats due to lack of prey, due to lack of food, and there is a clash between human being and these wild animals. So he should be growling around the houses at the jungle's edge, baring his white fangs. Baring means here showing his white fangs. Fangs are the teeth of the tiger. His claws, terrorizing the villagers. So here terrorizing the village. Now here we can say one more figure of speech can also be called as terrorizing the village. So here the tiger is not terrorizing the village, it is terrorizing the villagers. So here we can say it is a transferred epithet. Transferred epithet. So transferred epithet is used where we are using any situation where the quality of villagers has been given to a non-living, that is village. So here the poet has used transferred epithet because the quality of villagers has been given to here non-living object, that is village. So these villagers, they get terrorized or they are frightened. They are frightened of tiger. Now let us move on to next. But he is locked in a concrete cell. But now see again this, when this word but is coming, no, so this is telling us about the contrast, that what was earlier is not happening now. So again the tiger has been explained in a zoo. What is its condition in a zoo? He is locked in a concrete cell. He is locked. He is limited. He is limited in this concrete cell. Cell which is concrete, very small, unpleasant, which is not good for the tiger, or tiger doesn't like all these things. So here we can say that his strength behind bars. Now he is not open. His strength is lying behind the bars, behind the cage. He is unable to do anything, stalking the length of his cage. So once again he is stalking, he is moving from one side to the another side with the length of his cage. Now length of his cage, again very small place for the tiger to live. Ignoring visitors. Now this tiger is ignoring. This tiger doesn't pay any attention. He doesn't pay any attention. He ignores, doesn't pay any attention toward the visitors, because his liberty, his freedom has been taken away by human beings, or he has been kept in the zoo. So that is why he is ignoring the visitors. Or we can say that the poet is telling us that, or he sees that the tiger is put in a concrete cell in the zoo, and in spite of all his strength, he now lies, or he is there in behind the bars. He has been imprisoned behind the bars, and very slowly and silently he moves up and down along the length of the cage. He takes no note of the visitors who come to the zoo to have a look at him. So this tells the helpless condition. We can say that it is the helpless condition of the tiger in this zoo. Now last stanza is he hears the last voice at night. So this at night he hear the last voice at night of the patrolling cars. Now we know that in the zoo there is a practice of keeping a watch at all the animals, that they are safe and sound, nothing wrong is happening with them. So in order to have a look, these patrolling cars are going round the cage, or they are going round the zoo in order to have a look at all the wild animals. So here we can say the tiger he is unable to have any rest even during the daytime because of the visitors, and even at night time he is disturbed. He is disturbed by the patrolling cars due to the noise of patrolling cars. So he keeps staring at the brilliant stars with his brilliant eyes. So he stares, he is looking with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. So we can say that yes, perhaps he is having a look at the brilliant stars with the brilliant eyes, and he is thinking as if, yes, he is thinking as if he is safe and sound in his liberty, in his freedom, in the natural habitat. So we can say that yes, the poet has strongly raised a concern. He has raised a concern over the helpless nature of helplessness nature of animal by human beings, and he also advocates that animals should be given freedom. They should be given freedom. They should be allowed to live in their natural habitat. Natural habitat. So these are the concerns of the poet, which he tries to tell us in this poem, very small and simple poem, A Tiger in the Zoo. Now when we think about the important questions, or we can say important other figures of speech, we come to know about, yes, in this last stanza, with his brilliant eyes. So here we can say that this sound of eye is there with his brilliant. So eye is there, no? So here we can say the use of assonance, or we can say it is a kind of alliteration is there. A kind of alliteration is there by the use of assonance. So this thing is there, and one more we can say here, one more alliteration, he hears, he hh sound is there, no? Hh. So here again alliteration is there. In previous stanzas we have seen that that enjambment. So here that is there in second stanza. And how it is there? Because we can say that yes, sliding through long grass near the water hole where plump deer pass. So same idea is conveyed in 3 lines. So that figure of speech we can say that is enjambment. So these are the figure of speech which are there in this poem. Now when we come to know about important questions, so important questions can be, one question can be regarding the theme of the poem, or it can be a value based question. Second, we can say that yes, poet can, or we can, the examiner can ask you a question like how the poet has created a contrast. Between the life of a tiger in zoo with the life of a tiger in natural habitat, that is forest. So I hope you enjoyed this small poem. Thank you.